webcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for MCA Connect's exclusive automotive bid response management webinar with special guests from our client, Litens Automotive. Our presentation today should run about 45 to 50 minutes, leaving time for questions at the end. If questions come up during the presentation, please feel free to submit them into the chat box and we'll answer them as they come. Our first speaker today from MCA Connect is our Power Platform Director, Jansen Davidson. Jansen is responsible for expanding our sales and expertise on the Microsoft Power Platform. His efforts take us from building new and custom apps for clients all the way to selling automotive solutions around our IP, such as Manufacturing Connect for Auto, which we'll be focusing on today. So with that, Jansen, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you now.
Great. Thank you very much, Kelsey. Appreciate that. Hello, everyone. Looking forward to this session. I'm joined here by Bruno Fregasso. He is our Vice President of Global Sales, Marketing, Project Management for the Litens Automotive Group. Just a little background on Litens. They're headquartered in Woodbridge, Ontario. They're a full-service designer and manufacturer of engineered power transmission systems and components for the automotive industry. They kicked off their Microsoft Dynamics 365 with MCA Connect's Auto Bid Response project in February of 2019. Litens then went live with our Auto Bid Response solution in July of 2020 and currently scheduled to go live for the rest of their D365 implementation in May of 2021. Before we get to the questions with Bruno, I just want to cover a quick background on Auto Bid Connect, a response solution for Dynamics CE. The system has been developed by our solution development team, and it sits on Dynamics 365 CE. It provides the much needed RFQ task and cost requests and tracking for the automotive industry. Auto Bid Connect can manage RFQs from opportunity to bid award to first good piece, and program management and support is available too. With our solution, multiple departments like program management, engineering, purchasing, they all have real-time views and status on any given RFQ going through the system. So with that, we're going to turn our attention to Bruno, who's going to be able to share a little bit more history on his experience with Dynamics CE and Auto Bid. And I'm just going to ask him a handful of questions. Bruno, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate your time. Starting with the first question here, can you share with us what was the significant event or events that led you down the path to explore Dynamics CE with MCA Connect Auto Bid Response solution? Was it RFQ response improvements you were looking for? Were you losing bid to competitors? And just help us understand a little bit as to, again, what drove you down this path and this journey.
Very well. Again, thanks for the opportunity. We just want a small correction on the dates. We went live with Auto Bid on January 2020. In June, we went live with the project management piece, all part of the Dynamics tool. So that means we have almost 1 full year of experience by now, really. Yeah, which is pretty good. Now, when we started this journey was certainly a couple of years before we even engaged MCA. We were back then we're looking at our sales performance, and we needed to improve it. One of the key factors was winning rate. We're running the winning rates at a much lower number than what we wanted, and we felt that we were losing too many opportunities that we should win. Of course, that was a result of a market condition, that competition and more players coming in, a more difficult market, and therefore that was impacting our ability to win as much as we used to before. Also, there was a technology shift. So those external circumstances forced us to look at our internal processes and the way that we engaged customers and reinvent ourselves in that manner. And we started a process to review our processes, the way, again, as we engage customers. And one of the key things that we realized was that we needed to be more agile, more flexible. So we needed to design new processes that allowed us to engage customers earlier, more proactively, and at the same time allowed us to be flexible when responding to their needs, both technically and commercially. And then we started a process of evaluating solutions in the market and came up with Microsoft Dynamics as being our chosen platform to develop a solution. And eventually that led us to find MCA. And you guys had the AutoBid pretty ready to go. And that was our chosen path.
Great. Thank you for that. You touched on it a little bit already, but is there anything you can expand further on other efficiency gains contributed, or I should say attributed to AutoBid response? Anything around just RFQ turnaround times in general? Any gains or efficiencies there?
Yeah, and the AutoBid was a great surprise really for us on the positive note. We envision a quote process the way, so you know where we came from a system that was very compliant, and it worked pretty good, but it was a cookie cutter, one fit all kind of thing, because you would run a quote in the very same way every time. And that's good from one perspective. That means you're going to be consistent. But the reality is we were not flexible, and we could not react quickly, and we could not tweak the process for every quote. And the business, the reality in the automotive industry is that at times you're going to get an RFQ from customer, and you're going to react to that RFQ, and you're going to run a proper full quote. But very often you're going to get a request from customer that is not a proper full RFQ with all the state of requirements. It will be a request for information for a quote, a ballpark number, early engagement of customers that we still need to do some sort of a quote exercise in different levels, and we would just not be able to do with the system that we had. And the AutoBid really, we wanted something that would allow that flexibility, but we didn't really know exactly how it would work. And when we saw AutoBid, that was it. The way you can configure every quote to run at a speed and accuracy levels that you want for every time or every circumstance, it really made us be able to do it properly every time, versus where what we're forced here than what customers expected. We would have to do things out of the system. With the AutoBid, that does not happen anymore. So it brings not only efficiency, but then a proper data keeping and making sure, at any given time we know what's out there to customers, and we can quickly relate to the internal effort in a system manner.
Very good. Appreciate that. That's great. You and I have talked before, and I've heard you say that your sales process and dynamics combined with the AutoBid response has kind of been a game changer for you and your company. Is there anything you can elaborate further on that? I mean, how does this, you kind of covered a little bit, but how does this solution, you think, combines, set you apart?
Yeah. So when we started this, we identified two things we needed to change. One was we needed to engage customers earlier in the game. And two, we needed to be able to be more flexible when dealing with quotes and quote requests. And when we started this journey, we started to develop within Microsoft Dynamics CE a customer engagement tool to enable us to work with customers before an RFQ is issued. I typically tell this to my teams that if you learn about an opportunity through a customer RFQ, it's too late. We should be talking to customers way before an RFQ is even issued. We should be engaging them proactively, which is the concept of what a CRM would be. Now, when you look back, CRM for tier 1 automotive system companies it's just not a popular thing, right? People don't do that. It's not available. They use CRM for when you have thousands of leads or hundreds or dozens, and you have multiple customers, and you need to be able to deal with all of that. We don't. And if you are a tier 1 supplier, you have 30 customers max. If you serve everybody, and we do serve everybody, it's 30 customers, right? You think quickly, you know, the number of OEMs available in the world, it's not a big number. So people don't think CRM is a good thing, but the reality is you can, because, you know, you can become more proactive in the way you engage your customer. So if you do that, you know, you can win more, and you can engage them earlier. You can work in partnership, and so on and so forth. And we design a process to allow that, you know, all the way from leads, qualification of opportunities, moving them, designing a score to measure opportunities, and also giving a path for our account managers, technical account engineers, sales directors, so they could engage customers. They knew what to do to bring customers on board, what they needed to do to be in the best position to win before we received the RFQ. And that is what differentiates, I think, Litens at this point in time. And not only that, we were able to use a flexible and agile and efficient quote process all along. And that combination is making it great for us. That's, I think, what sets us apart.
Okay, that's really good. You know, one of the things I also kind of observed with you, you know, your VP of sales, and the system has a lot of touch points. So how are you able to align and gain the support from the other groups within your company, such as engineering, purchasing, and so forth? How are you able to get those teams to kind of back your vision? Again, because this system holistically, you know, has a lot of touch points within your company. Just how were you able to do that to make sure everybody else was on board with what you were trying to do?
And this is a key element, really. The change management piece, you know, if you don't really do that well, it will just fail, because you're going to launch something that others will not use. Of course, it doesn't go smoothly. It's definitely not the case, because every time you change something, you know, you make some enemies because people don't like change.
Sure.
They will like the change after they're used to it and they finally realize this is actually better. But until you get to that point, people are not comfortable. It's just how it goes. So spending the time to bring people along is key. As I said, we did have a system that was a full-blown quote system for every circumstance or every customer request. And that was causing, we identified, of course, we knew that was causing a lot of extra work on the other areas of the company. At times, they did not even need to do anything, but they were requested to do work on a quote because it was maybe a next version of a quote that already happened, and they still needed to work on this. So one of the key things in dealing with the other areas was the efficiency gains, because out of a sudden, they don't need to work if they don't need to work. The system would allow them, you know, if this, let's say a quote revision that does not require any new information from purchasing, they don't even need to be involved. You know, if it's the same bill of material cost baseline, we just move forward and run a new financial scenario, a new manufacturing scenario without the need from purchasing. Or maybe, you know, it's a round that we're having a further negotiation with our suppliers, but nothing else changes, no design, no manufacturing. And so I don't need to trigger every other area. So we sold that idea to them and say, you know what, we're gonna be able to run quotes as they should be, and you are gonna be triggered to work only when you're really needed, and that way your workload will reduce. So that was a key thing. One other element was that the system also helps them know what to do. So they are triggered to work on some quotes, and so they know they need to do that. It comes with a proper date expectation, and there's a collaboration piece that goes with it. So whenever they're triggered to work on a quote, they're going to know exactly what this quote is about, why this is important to them, and they feel part of it. Whereas before, when they needed to work on a quote, they didn't really know why they were doing that. They didn't know if that was the final quote first round, ballpark estimate, if this was a real opportunity, if we needed to squeeze everything we could because it was a tough competitive situation, so we needed to put the effort to win, or if it was a safe round and we could go with some protection. They didn't know that. They were just triggered to run quotes. Right now they feel they know meaning, they have meaning and purpose on every quote. They understand when they are required to do something, they know exactly why. So the collaboration piece that comes with it, we had to sell all of that to them to get them on board. And that was how I think we were able to engage the other areas and get them to use this and embrace the system and the process. We even launched, as part of the change management and our vision, we launched a team for all of this. We call winning together. So the launch of all of this internally, we have a campaign, with proper communication. We call this is part of our winning together strategy. So we all feel part of being one team, and when we win, we all win, and we all understand what we're doing. What's the importance of everybody's working to making Litens win.
Very good. I appreciate that. That was a lot of great background, a lot of good information there. Kind of finishing up here with the questions before I turn it over to Doug. What advice would you give for people who are maybe early in this journey and exploring, let's say, sales enablement strategy around something like dynamic CE and auto bid response? Just any kind of advice you can give the folks that are listening.
Yeah, a couple of things is, of course, typically when you look at a system and a process, you think, I want to be very efficient. I want to be able to deploy my resources in the most efficient way, in a way that I can extract the most value out of my people, my resources, and that maximizes company's results. Typically, that's where you start, really. And we did that. We did not only stop at CRM or the dynamic CE for the auto bid. We went further. We implemented the whole project management all the way from lead until we're hitting production, and we keep projects open 6 months into production. Make sure the production areas are satisfied with what was delivered, really. So we went all the way, and that is efficiency. Of course, we're doing better. We're using less resources. We're doing more flawlessly than ever before. But there is one piece that cannot be overlooked, which is the customer experience. If you want to, because you can be very efficient, you can be very good internally, and you're going to look to your management and say, awesome, I'm doing a great job, we're delivering everything, we're being efficient, and we're using the resources wisely, and that's awesome. Can you hear me? I can't hear. I think you're muted as well.
Yeah, we were muted accidentally, I think, by the organizer. Sorry about that.
No problem.
You're okay now.
I was just saying that the one thing that cannot be overlooked is that you also need to provide a positive customer experience when dealing with us. That is what will retain customers. And you have to be able to be quick when they need to be quick. Quite often customers are in trouble themselves, and you have to be able to help them without bringing the entire risk to your organization. So when you're designing, when you're looking at this, the pursuit for customer engagement excellence and the best efficiency and excellence of the internal processes, it's always worth it, because over time it pays off. It will, you will win more, and you get customers more satisfied, and you're going to provide better results to the stakeholders.
Okay. Well, Bruno, we can't thank you enough for all this insight you provided in answering these questions. What I'd like to do now, everyone, I would like to go ahead and transition the session to now to our Vice President of Solution Development, Doug Bulla. Doug heads up our IP development, such as systems like AutoBid Response. And he's going to spend about 20-25 minutes covering a little more of a deep dive on AutoBid Response, what it accomplishes, and just an overview of it. So with that, Doug, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Jansen. So can you see my screen?
We can.
I can see it.
Excellent. Thank you. What I wanted to do was just give you a little bit of history of how this solution evolved, and if any of the members here on the webinar have been struggling with these issues, they probably have tried at least a few of these attempts. Generally speaking, what we see as far as requirements in the automotive industry today is that the OEMs, as ever demanding, have become more so demanding in their expectations. Singular responses, globalization, global platforms, singular responses to those, infinite levels of detail, more detail, and quick response. Again, I think I want to thank Bruno for his time. It was good to hear that that's what we're seeing at Litens is what we see in many places we address these situations. While we do this, the tier one supplier has to be able to identify opportunities, both existing business and new business. And as we look at the changing marketplace, as we look at what's going on in automotive right now, we see a lot of change coming in the next 3 to 5 years, of course, with the different types of vehicles being built and the different OEMs that are coming online. Most of our suppliers have multiple design centers strategically located. They have multiple manufacturing facilities with very different cost structures and different approaches. So it really gets down to getting that level of detail and successfully communicating it up to a single point. And of course, we have to manage change, and we have to be able to manage risk. And risk is more than just being on time and on budget, especially when you're venturing into, say, new OEMs or new product lines. So in the 90s, when we first started working with automotive suppliers, a lot of our focus was inventory turns and schedule performance. A lot of it was manufacturing focused. And as we squeezed the opportunities and the non-value-added activities out of the manufacturing space, we started turning our direction to some of the front office capabilities. And when we started doing that, we looked at some of our most expensive resources, be they the engineering or the program management or individuals who are involved in that both quoting and, say, APQP program management process. We saw that there was a significant opportunity from just the amount of non-value-added activities that go on in the quote and bid, the errors due to missteps, communications to remote sites, getting information back and forth, especially as our OEM, our tier one suppliers became more and more global in their footprints in order to meet the needs of the OEMs. And this concept of risk assessment started to kind of formalize itself. Over the years, we tried, our philosophy on technology is pretty simple. Try to leverage existing technologies that exist in the marketplace. And we tried a lot of technologies. We tried Excel and ERP and PLM. We tried project server, customer relationship management, configure price quote tools. But all these seem to not quite meet the needs of what was really necessary to bring together a very strategic direct solution. So about 2015 is when we first sat down and kind of built bid response from scratch with in mind these components and having to integrate with these other solutions, but understanding that it was truly kind of a unique business process and it needed its own technology in order to succeed. So what we found is that bid response is kind of the missing piece that connects customer relationship management. It connects some of the detailed costing that goes on, the detail or the magic, where the magic happens from a quote calculation perspective. It connects up to your demand management and workforce planning tools as far as providing projections on volumes. And of course, it feeds, say, a program management solution as well. In fact, I would say that by implementing bid response, your program management becomes fairly straightforward, maybe even less complex than it is today, by getting this information organized up front efficiently. And then finally, of course, we also integrate with PLM systems because, as we know, oftentimes you have to provide the engineering information or the projected bill of material for the possible quote. So all these things, this is kind of where we fit in. I think, as Bruno mentioned, Litens is running customer relationship, they're running bid response and program management, and they are soon to be implementing demand management and workforce planning. So just from a graphical perspective, fundamentally what this solution does is it allows us to have that single connection and to communicate to our design centers where we create what's called an engineering design request. And each of these engineering design centers may be generating a bill of material that could potentially be different for each region of the country or region of the world, depending on the materials that are required, to optimize it for that part of the world. And of course, as you also do that, you have to reach out to any and all potential manufacturing locations and gather up all of the details from a packaging perspective, processes, tooling. There's more logistics, et cetera, and have to gather all those detail elements in what's called a costing request. So a costing request goes to the plants to gather up information, and the design request will go to the design centers to gather up the appropriate process bill of material requirements. Then all of that is organized and managed under the opportunity, which is the bid. So here's a good example that we like to share, which shows a comprehensive view of, say, in this case, an opportunity for an exhaust trim where we have built out 3 scenarios. And in these 3 scenarios, the first is a global scenario where we're quoting manufacturing it in 3 manufacturing facilities. And then we would have a design request, say, out there for the specific design. Or we may have a scenario where it's just Europe, where we may be splitting the demand between, say, Dusseldorf and Munich, for example, or another one where it's a scenario it's just North American. So what the system allows you to do underneath the opportunity is to collect and gather and manage multiple demand patterns, multiple demand projections, multiple methods of supplying the materials, and organize them and effectively communicate out to the facilities and the design centers so that that information can be gathered back and you can generate ultimately a pro forma quote, which upon approvals, reviews and approvals, which are available throughout, upon review and approval, you would then formalize the quote and send it to the OEM. So this is kind of a comprehensive, this is I call the magic button that you can always hit, and you can see exactly what is going on and where, because you can drill down through each one of these options. The analytics that are integrated into the solution allow you to easily show what activities do I have to work on, what approvals are waiting on me, What's my active engineering requests look like? Maybe if I'm a manager, what's the dollars? What are my volumes, et cetera? All that information is contained and captured inside the system. So it really is tuned to help manage all the details that you need to collect to pull together a cohesive single response to an OEM for a bid. The risk assessment component is kind of important because it allows you to identify and develop risk as it is a measurable concept, meaning that you can identify specific risk factors and assign them values, and then have the system calculate what it determines as the value or the red, yellow, green status. So the risk engine, which can be leveraged across both programs and across quotes, is a nice feature to help get very specific on, surfacing those bids that need management attention. And that's exactly what it's meant to be. And it's much more than just, are the tasks on time? Obviously, task being on time is ultimately a driver of all the activities, but there can be other risks that would elevate a quote or a program, for that matter, to management perspective. Just briefly about MCA, our goal in life is to take technology and turn it into something that is of value to our customers. And as we say, passion for the possibilities. And I think this solution is a good example of several that we have, where we've taken our 20, 30 years of experience and delivered something that's very effective and very, very useful for our customers. And at that, Jansen, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate that and that background. Just looking at our agenda here, Kelsey, I'd like to open this up for any questions. I wanted to leave some room for anybody watching, participating on this. I think we're reserved to use the chat feature there in the webinar, the GoToWebinar piece. So why don't we just use some of the remaining of this time to go ahead and field any questions that anybody might have.
Yep, Jansen, it doesn't look like any questions have come through at this point.
Okay. All right.
So we'll wait just another minute or so to see if any questions come through, but I want to thank you, Doug, Jansen, and especially you, Bruno, for joining our webinar today. We do have more details on Litens' experience, and we've captured their case study on our website, which I'm actually going to be emailing out to everyone after this call. So be on the lookout for that. And then also, if any questions come up, please feel free to reach out if you're interested in learning more about the solution or seeing a more personalized demo, talking to Doug or Jansen or one of our experts on challenges that your organization may be facing. Feel free to reach out to us and we will be in touch. So Jansen, unless you have anything else, then I think we can go ahead and end to the webinar.
I think we can. I want to thank everybody. Thank you, Bruno. Thank you, Doug. And as Kelsey said, please, sometimes questions come in after the webinars and things like this conclude. So please feel free to reach out to one of us. Our contact information is readily available. And again, just happy to share any any more information about the solution and some of the customer experiences. So thank you again for everybody's time watching this and participating. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and have Kelsey go ahead and conclude the webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.